Folks, welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. President Trump's best form of Secret Service may just be Doge and Elon Musk. We now know why they wanted President Trump dead. We now know that the corruption is widespread. I believe most of the government spending, this insane, egregious, outrageous government spending, is all part of a massive money laundering scheme that is designed to enrich the pockets of corrupt politicians. This is why they wanted President Trump dead. Now, exposing all of it, the cat's out of the bag. There's not going to be much they can do to stop this steam train from rolling. Killing President Trump now would do nothing. J.D. Vance would continue to uncover this. God forbid they then went down the line and killed the next person in line and the next person. It's already too late. Doge is not stopping. Republicans in Congress who are holding Doge committees, they finally got the balls to do it, but they're doing it. That's not stopping. So President Trump has a veil of protection. Now, it doesn't mean he's safe. No, absolutely. I still think that they want to do everything they can do to stop him, but it doesn't protect them from being exposed. This season of exposure that we are going through right now is the greatest protection for President Trump because it's too late. And then you see what he did to the folks in New York, going after Kathy Hochul, going after Letitia James. Now, it may be on the sanctuary city policies. Pam Bondi, Department of Justice, file civil charges against them for violating federal law. All of this is, in my opinion, yes, retribution, but more importantly, accountability. Is it accountability on the things we want accountability for? Well, in some respects, yes, but not the big things we want accountability for, like the lawfare that they waged against President Trump and all of his confidants. So right now, folks, what I'm looking at is the situation that as we continue to expose this stuff, the truth will come out and the corruption will be so far and wide. President Trump has done more in 3.5 weeks than Ronald Reagan did in 8 years, than President Trump honestly did in 4 years. He is on a mission. This is a machine to get our country back in order. Now, Maxine Waters happened to say the quiet part out loud, what they're really worried about. She admitted it. She admitted it. I'm going to play that for you in just a second. But before I do, folks, I want to tell you about my friends over at Colonial Metals Group. I really do believe that metals, precious metals, gold should be a part of your portfolio protection maneuver because right now what we're seeing, we still have out of control spending, even though Elon is getting in. We have a $30 trillion debt, $30 trillion. Even at $1 billion a day savings, we're not going to get that under control anytime soon. You have the AI situation. AI, I believe, for all the good that it can do, will also put a lot of people out of work. You put a lot of people out of work, what happens to our economy? I'm worried about that. Gold is a hedge and a protection on that. You have China buying up gold. Every central bank across the world is buying up gold. Why wouldn't you go where the smart money goes? Talk to them about taking an existing IRA or 401k, taking part of it and making it a gold IRA. Colonial Metals Group can help you. Just go to freegoldguide.com/grant. That's freegoldguide.com/grant. Or you can call them at 800-458-7356, 800-458-7356. But this gold guide is really good to help explain to you why this is a great maneuver right now. freegoldguide.com/grant. Let the folks over at Colonial Metals help you. I know them. I trust them. They're the group to be with. All right. As I mentioned, Mad Maxine Waters, the Congresswoman from California, says the quiet part out loud. Listen closely.
People of this country are being violated because all of our privacy is being taken up by Elon Musk and Trump, and we don't know what all they have on us. We don't know what all they have on us.
We don't know what all they have on us. Maxine, you're part of the old guard. You've got a $4.5 million house, a net worth of $5-6 million, which that math doesn't add up either, by the way. You come from Inglewood, California, not the wealthiest town in the world. I don't know what any form of businesses that you ever owned. You've been in Congress since before I can even remember. What do they have on you? The reason many of these Democrats are screaming and yelling is because Elon Musk will find the goods. That's the bottom line. President Trump, here he is talking about it.
What we're going to do is tomorrow I'm having a news conference. I'm going to read to you some of the names that hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars have been given to. And if you tell me that we should be giving money to those things, those entities, I think you'll probably have to leave as a reporter because you're not very talented. When you look at the kind of money, billions and billions of dollars being thrown away illegally, and there's no chance. I mean, I say it in front of our Attorney General, there's no chance that there's not kickbacks or something going on. When you give millions and millions of dollars to somebody that stands to look at something for 15 minutes and walks away with millions of dollars, that money's coming back in some form.
So think about what President Trump and where he comes from. He comes from the construction industry in New York City. Guess who also worked in the construction industry in New York City, albeit a long time ago? I did. Guess whose family has been in the construction industry for a long time? My great-grandfather, Charlie Rayo, founded one of the largest electrical construction firms in New York City called Arc Electrical Construction Company, going back into the 1920s. It's a dirty business. Let me just say that. A dirty business. It's why I got out of the construction business. I don't want to take part in payoffs and meeting guys in the basement and giving them $100 just so I get material up the elevator because you got unions who are beholden to somebody else. And then the only way to move material around in New York was to pay somebody off. It wasn't me. I didn't want to do that. I'd rather expose that kind of stuff. So Trump knows all about this. Trump knows how the world operates. And if anybody can spot a kickback scheme, it's going to be President Trump. So I think that's what DOJ is exposing, a massive money laundering scheme going back to corrupt politicians. And don't think for a minute that there aren't going to be Republicans that fall with this. There most certainly are. This is the uniparty that's been operating this way. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay, and Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene offered up a bill, I think a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, to do away with USAID. We know that this agency, which President Trump shut down, was funneling millions upon millions, if not billions of dollars to all kinds of crazy causes. She had a bill to do away with USAID years ago. You know how many Republicans voted for that bill? 80 out of what? 100 and something, 150, 160 Republicans? 80? So Republicans knew what they were doing. They could have exposed this a long time ago. It all comes back to corruption in this good old boys club in Washington.
And that's only one form of corruption. The biggest thing is what they do to our country. They're taking massive amounts of money and spending it on items. I went through a list of 200 expenditures that were made, and I found 3 that looked like they were reasonable. Okay, 3. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. We have a lot of stuff. And I want to commend Elon because he's done a fantastic. He doesn't need this. You know, he's abused by you people every day. He's found more things than anybody could find. I think he's got the credibility to do it. I know he does. And it's his group of people. You know, they started off with 12. I call them 12 geniuses. They started off with 12, and they went to 20 and 25, and now they're up to almost 100. People are joining to help them because there's a massive fraud that's taken place.
It is. And Mr. President, you know, Elon gets a lot of credit. But if it wasn't for President Trump, there'd be no Elon and no Doge. President Trump had the foresight to go after this and get to the bottom of all of this. He was talking about Elon. I wanted to pull this up. Elon talked a little bit in that Oval Office about what's going on, what he's been finding, people that are making millions of dollars on $200,000 salaries that just don't add up. It doesn't make sense.
So at a high level, if you say what is the goal of Doge and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy. This may seem like, well, are we in a democracy? Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, okay, we would have to, if you sorry. So, I tell you, gravitas can be difficult sometimes. If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there aren't some good. There are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people.
The problem with bureaucracy is it takes on a life of its own. It becomes its own animal. So you can have good people in federal government, and there are. You can also have bad people. But this giant bureaucracy becomes an animal, and it feeds off the American taxpayer. And as it feeds off of it, this bureaucracy and the power that comes with it starts to corrupt. And then the money starts to flow. And we know anytime there's money flowing with really no strings attached, with no checks and balances, and that's what Elon Musk is finding out, that there was no checks and balances with all this. As they unveil all of that, you realize that it's out of control. So as Elon Musk says, you can't have a democracy anymore. What you have is a bureaucracy. And don't get caught up on the word democracy. He's making a point, all right, that the fact that the idea of an elected government should be making decisions for the people that elected them, we're now being run by this bureaucracy, unelected bureaucrats. Now, you'll say Elon Musk is an unelected bureaucrat. Yes, but he's a representative of the elected representative, of the elected leader, President Trump. And he's a direct representative of President Trump. This isn't just some employee in the federal government. He's doing the work at the behest of the president. So in many respects, Elon Musk is elected because he works directly for President Trump. All of President Trump's appointments from the executive branch basically work directly for the people through President Trump. If that makes sense. I hope it does. Folks, let me tell you about my friends over at NFN8. This is get21now.com. I tell you about this all the time, and then I'm going to tell you about Lee Zeldin, what he has found inside the EPA. Staggering. Wait till you hear. And the media's not covering this, by the way, but I digress. Get21now.com. 21% annualized interest on your investment, paid monthly, direct deposited into your account. I call it cash flow, with basically sitting back and relaxing. You can go to sleep. You can go on vacation. You can do whatever you want. Each month, the money gets direct deposited into your account. This is what's happened with me. I've been with NFN8, get21now.com, for, 6 months now or so. Money like clockwork every month. They've lived up to all of their promises to me. And I'll tell you what it's about. It's Bitcoin mining. So they have industrialized the system of mining for Bitcoin. You invest in the mining equipment. They sell the Bitcoin out on the open market the next day after they mine it. And you get paid a 21% rate of return annualized on your investment. You don't have any headaches. You don't have to worry about repairs to the computer, repairs to the warehouse. They handle all that. All you do is put up the money and sit back and watch that cash flow in. Get21now.com. My buddy Corey will call you. Fill out the form. If he calls you back, please return his phone call, or even better, take the phone call. They're very busy. This offer has been very, very popular. As you can imagine, 21%. Where do you get that? Nowhere. And so really, we're one of the few podcasts that he's got this on because it's so popular. So this is really a Stinchfield's Armory exclusive. Get21now.com, up to 21% annualized rate of return on your money, paid monthly. That's the most important part of all of this. All right. I told you, Lee Zeldin, man, he comes out with what I would describe as bombshell news. and I mean bombshell news, when it comes to what he discovered inside the EPA. And I'm not even sure it was the DOJ folks that discovered this inside the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. $20 billion going to 8 entities to then funnel this money out to radical leftist groups, non-governmental organizations, the infamous NGOs. The media is not covering Lee Zeldin's story, but you need to hear it. This is his video that he released that the media does not want you to see, because I think even a leftist, even a liberal is going to say, you know what? We don't want that. That's not what our tax money should be used for.
Hi, this is EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. One of my very top priorities at EPA is to be an excellent steward of your hard-earned tax dollars. There will be zero tolerance of any waste and abuse. An extremely disturbing video circulated 2 months ago featuring a Biden EPA political appointee talking about how they were tossing gold bars off the Titanic, rushing to get billions of your tax dollars out the door before Inauguration Day. The gold bars were tax dollars, and tossing them off the Titanic meant the Biden administration knew they were wasting it. Following this revelation, during my meetings with members of Congress, I made a very important commitment to them and to the American people, which I reiterated at my confirmation hearing that if confirmed, I would immediately get a full accounting. Fortunately, my awesome team at EPA has found the gold bars. Shockingly, roughly 20 billion of your tax dollars were parked at an outside financial institution by the Biden EPA. This scheme was the first of its kind in EPA history, and it was purposefully designed to obligate all of the money in a rush job with reduced oversight. Even further, this pot of $20 billion was awarded to just 8 entities that were then responsible for doling out your money to NGOs and others at their discretion with far less transparency. Just under $7 billion was sent to one entity called the Climate United Fund. I'm sure you and I now have some of the same questions. How do these organizations decide how to allocate funding? How much money have they given out so far and to whom? Are there any former Biden EPA staffers who are now working at these entities? Let me make one thing abundantly clear. At this point, there is zero reason to suspect any wrongdoing by the bank. Here's my position as EPA Administrator. The financial agent agreement with the bank needs to be instantly terminated, and the bank must immediately return all of the gold bars that the Biden administration tossed off the Titanic. EPA needs to reassume responsibility for all of these funds. We will review every penny that has gone out the door. I will be referring this matter to the Inspector General's office and will work with the Justice Department as well. The days of irresponsibly shoveling boatloads of cash to far-left activist groups in the name of environmental justice and climate equity are over. The American public deserves a more transparent and accountable government than what transpired these past 4 years. We take our obligations under the law as seriously as it gets. I've directed my team to find your gold bars, and they found them. Now we will get them back inside of control of government as we pursue next steps. As President Trump has vowed, we are going to usher in a new golden age of American success for the citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed.
All right. So there you have Lee Zeldin. And the audio on the Lee Zeldin clip, if that is bad, I apologize for that. I don't know why it's coming. I don't know why it's coming through that way. And I want to make sure that the audio is going to be okay on all of this. And I have good sound. Okay. All right. So let's hope that's working. We've gotten some complaints over this. Okay. And I see sound is working. I apologize, guys. I take the comments in the I take the comments in the chat room very seriously. If somebody says no sound, which Patrick said no sound, that concerns me. But I went on to the Rumble channel, and there is sound there. There's a problem with the Lee Zeldin audio, though. But basically, $20 billion to an outside entity to funnel this stuff through, $7 billion to this Climate United Fund. We need to investigate the Climate United Fund. What is that? This was a backdoor channel by Joe Biden designed to get this money out as fast as possible. He knew he was leaving office. Now, remember that situation with the gold bars, right? Of gold bars off the Titanic. I believe this was Project Veritas that had found this undercover Brent Efron from the Environmental Protection Agency making this admission.
Now we're just having to get the money out as fast as possible before they come in and like pop it up. It truly feels like we're on the Titanic and we're throwing like gold bars off the hatch. Who are the gold bars going to? Nonprofits, states, tribes. We gave them the money because it was harder. If it was a government-run program, they could take the money away if Trump won, and because it was a insurance policy against Trump winning.
Gold bars off the Titanic. And yes, the United States government, folks, is most certainly the Titanic. The mainstream media will ignore this. Yeah, Fox News covers it. I'm going to cover it on Real America's Voice. I'm sure you'll see the usual suspects like us. Charlie Kirk will cover it. But you're not going to see CNN covering this story because it exposes them. The season of exposure is right now, and it doesn't look good for the left, which is why they are flipping out. Lee Zeldin went on with Laura Ingraham.
It's important that we do the core mission. A place like EPA, our mission is protecting human health and the environment, but being cognizant that the American public spoke last November with economic concerns. So we have to unleash American energy dominance, make America the AI capital of the world, permitting reform, bringing back American auto jobs. We need to get that mission done. And when they're out there protesting, understand, like, for example, there was $160 million went to a Canadian electric vehicle manufacturer to build school buses. Well, they declared bankruptcy, but they still haven't delivered $95 million worth of these buses to 55 school districts. This is just an example. We threaten all of that because we want to do something about it to stop it.
Do you think if President Trump was president when this contract was signed, that we would send $180 million to a school bus company in Canada? Now, you want to make electric vehicles? Have at it. Make electric school buses. Make them in the United States. If you're going to spend taxpayer dollars on buying electric school buses, which I'm not sure I know why the federal government is even buying school buses for local school districts. Why? That's the local school district's job. States have to start taking care of themselves. Cities have to start taking care of themselves. It's not my responsibility as a taxpayer in Texas to buy electric school buses for some district in California. But if they make the decision that they're going to do that stupid spending, you better make the freaking school buses in the United States of America. But no, they won't make them here. Here's Caroline Levitt.
Brian.
Yes. I want to go back to DOGE just for a second. Earlier, the subcommittee headed by Chairman Marjorie Taylor Greene, her and her staff discovered $2.7 trillion in improper payments to Medicare, Medicaid, overseas, to people who should not have gotten it. Some of this room might have missed that press conference. Can you elaborate on what the president is thinking at this point?
Well, again, that's another example. There's a very long list of the fraud, waste, and abuse that DOGE is identifying on a daily basis. Elon Musk also talked about yesterday about Social Security payments that are going out the door for people who are no longer with us. Unfortunately, I would say that is certainly fraud. There's also a lot of contracts they've identified that, just as a hypothetical example, are $1 million, but only 500,000 went out the door. So where's the rest of that cash? And so that's the thing. Those are the things that DOGE is working on every single day. And I would just remind everybody in this room, this is what President Trump campaigned on doing. He's delivering on a promise that 77 million people elected him to do.
Promises made, promises kept. It literally is that simple. Now, some of these high-profile expenditures, like Lee Zeldin said, $7 billion to the Climate United, $7 billion? That is just blockbuster news. There's small expenditures, too, that really are maddening. I've got some of them here. Social Security Administration spent $1 million on Gender X initiative. Now, first off, Social Security, Gender X, what the hell is that? It should only be focused on seniors. I don't know if that's Generation X or Gender X. Does that mean you don't have a gender? I don't know. Either way, ridiculous. The Forest Service. Now, you would think the Forest Service would be focused on managing our forest. Apparently, you need diversity, equity, and inclusion to manage a forest because they spent $375,000 on a DEI onboarding program. $30,000, I mean, that's nothing, right? But I'm sure you could use $30K. $30,000 on a Central America-based gender assessment consultant. You know how I assess your gender? Pull down your freaking pants, and then I can tell you. I can tell your gender. It's that easy. And believe me, some of the people that you don't know, I don't want you pulling down your pants. You couldn't pay me the $30,000 to be a gender assessment consultant. Department of Agriculture, $230,000 for a Brazilian forest-based gender consultant. In Brazil, rainforests need a gender consultant? Come on. I don't think so. At all. That's crazy. Department of Labor spent $4 million on a DEI consultant. $4 million inside the Department of Labor. Elon Musk now believes he's saving America about $1 billion a day. Now, think about this. We have a $2 trillion deficit. You know the difference between debt and deficit. Deficit is we take in $2 million less than we spend every year. We spend about $7 trillion. We take in about $5 trillion. Taking in $5 trillion as a federal government, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. At the $1 billion a day, it's going to take about 4 years to make up that $1 trillion. But we've got another trillion that we found if you would only verify identification when it comes to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. If you verified identification, they believe they could save us $1 trillion. So there you've now balanced the budget. In the 4 years of the Trump presidency, you would balance the budget under this pace. What we still have, though, is debt at $30 trillion. Now, you would stymie the debt, maybe not be paying much of it down, but it wouldn't be growing. Our debt grows every day. We have a debt clock that is rolling, baby, and it's rolling in a very, very big way. Quite frankly, it's not good, to say the least. Just to keep up with it all, you know what I do? I got my friends over at Energized Health. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. It's about intercellular hydration. I love this program because I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks. I've kept it off. I have a program now in place that is not nearly as hard as the 88 days that you go through this intercellular hydration program. But I now manage my entire health. I have mental focus. I've got more muscle mass, visceral fat around my organs disappearing, all because of intercellular hydration. This program, they've got Zoom calls weekly. They've got daily calls. They've got coaching, personal coaching. They've got recipes, everything you need to succeed. The Energized Health program has, and they have a 99.1% success rate, which is why they give you 100% money back guarantee if it doesn't work for you. It can't not work for you. I'm going to tell you the secret's in the science. It can't not work. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. Again, I know these guys. I've been through the program. I trust them. If you're trying to get your life back on track, whether you got to lose 200 pounds, 20 pounds, women, men, older, younger, you name it, this will work. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. Pay them a visit today. So as we look at all of this and we look at what they're doing, they don't know what to do with themselves. Here is a member of Congress that is now going back to the tried and true attack that President Trump must be a racist. So again, none of this works. And I'm going to get into this transgender nonsense. I don't know if you saw this meeting in Worcester, Mass. that became a sanctuary city for transgender people, which to me is nutso garbanzos, but we'll talk about that. They can't get out of their own way. The Democrat Party, that is. Listen.
Our government, no matter who is in power, has an obligation to right these wrongs, to provide reparations for descendants of enslaved Africans, to eliminate the racial wealth gap, to uplift the Black community. White supremacy is rampant in this country. Just look at the current administration and our own legislative body. They have contributed to the social and economic harms, to racial terror Black folks have experienced in this country. Now, more than ever, we must acknowledge and repair those harms.
Really? Again, it gets back to the oppression. How is it oppressive that Elon Musk is going in and rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse? You can tell the theme is we're going to be talking about this a lot over the next, I'd say, few weeks, probably 4 years. And then hopefully beyond. Because the reality is this waste, fraud, and abuse runs so deep, you are going to have such a hard time finding all of it. But we are on our way. As I said, $1 billion a day. Let me go to some of the comments. Sean Gilbert, the Getter chat, they need to be held accountable. You better believe they do. Still need to find out what happened to the billions lost on the airport runway Obama and Biden lost. I imagine you may be talking about the airport runway in Afghanistan or the airport runway in Iran. Either way, lots of money being lost. It would have never been fixed if Trump hadn't won in 2016. That's probably true. We needed everything to happen. You know, God works in mysterious ways. How about that for a line for you? Trump had to win for the left to go hog wild. Trump needed to win to get in there to learn his footing, to get his sea legs going. And so Trump gets in there and he manages to figure out how to navigate D.C. and what's really going on. The left gets so mad, they steal the election. Trump gets so mad at the election being stolen, he makes it his mission to get back in. Now he knows where the bodies are buried, and he sicks Elon Musk on them. Everything happens for a reason, right? And that's why we are where we are now, and it feels like, to me, a pretty darn good place to be. In the Rumble chat, most popular search on Google in Washington, D.C., criminal layers, feel the panic and fear. Criminal layers or liars? I don't know what he's trying to write there. And then we go to the Facebook chat. Let's see. Yeah, here, Patricia Mooney. Jobs raise up all races. Work ethic must return. I was just talking to a friend of mine, for perspective only. Black, works at the Postal Service, huge supporter of President Trump. Said he's got a lot of friends that are mad about all of this because they don't want food stamps to go away. They don't want, and these are able-bodied people, he said. They've got to get back to the business of going back to work. And right now, they're not. But there's nothing like a hard day's work. And I think what the Democrat plan was to keep minority communities down with the boot of the government on their throat, feed them little bits just to keep them alive with the food stamps and the welfare and all this, and keep them under their control. And then those people forgot what it's like to go out and work a hard day's work. I remember when I learned this when I was working greens crew, summer job. I would weed eat around trees. I'd start on hole number 1, go all the way through hole number 18. And by the time I finished on 18, 4 or 5 days later, it was time to start on hole number 1 again. But I remember coming home tired. And I remember thinking how great I feel about a hard day's work and that first paycheck I got. And even now, when I work at this and the podcast, and I increase my income and revenue, and I realize how good a long day's work feels. 3 hours of radio, hour podcast, hour TV show, not to mention the business stuff I'm doing. I thrive off it. I'm not complaining to you. I love it. And I think a lot of people forgot what it feels like to have a good day's work. All right. So the transgender craziness continues. Now, there is 5 minutes of this at a Worcester, Massachusetts City Hall meeting to make Worcester, Mass. a transgender sanctuary city. Well, Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus comes out at full force, folks. Check this out. Clown show.
I need the city to protect me because the federal government won't. And if you think you're afraid of Trump, you should see how afraid of Trump I am.
Can you wrap up, please?
Yes, I can. If you say that you're afraid of Trump and that's why you don't want the city to be a safe space for trans people, you better prepare for trans people to make this a very unsafe space.
I'm shaking right now. I don't want to be here.
Please.
I'm sorry, am I taking too long pleading for my life?
Pleading for your life? They literally have been, I honestly think they've been duped. You're looking at the people, the blind liberal zombies that have been duped into thinking that somehow we're going to be rounding up transgender people. Nobody's rounding that up. Just stay away from our kids, please. That's it. Fearing for their lives, transgender sanctuary city. What's going to happen in a sanctuary transgender city? All President Trump did was say, hey, you know what? We're not sending federal money for chemical castration, for physical castration, for hormone replacements of a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old. We're not doing that at a federal level.
You remembered how many children I have and that 2 of them are trans.
I speak as both the B and the T in the LGBT.
I'm multiply disabled. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder that causes me immense physical pain. I'm on the autism spectrum, and I have narcolepsy, and I couldn't drive myself here, so I had to hide from my driver that I was in drag, which is not an easy thing to do in drag.
I do not want to be here. It's my day off. I do not want to be in your DMs. I do not want to be in your email inboxes. I do not want my creativity writing diss tracks like Kendrick. I don't want to spend an hour applying glitter on my face so that you will hear and see me. I want you to listen to me.
Let us. I'm going to say this, and this is probably crazy. Is it bizarre that I could listen to these people all day? It's a comedy show. It is a 100% comedy show, but it's also very sad. These people are mentally ill. They've been duped by their Democrat leaders. They are now playing the victim card. Everything is a victim. They have more problems than they know what to do with. You can solve some of these problems. I don't buy a lot of this nonsense they've been diagnosed with. Just buck up, as I tell my son. He gets mad at me when I say that. I don't know if I'm being a bad father when I say buck up. He came home, and I love my son. He's 6'1", 250 pounds. At 15 years old, he's a pretty good little athlete. He plays basketball. He's a solid young man, okay? And he's a good boy. But he said he got hurt in basketball. His chest, he broke a rib. I must take him to the doctor. I said, dude, you didn't break a rib. I said, you probably got banged in the chest. Your chest is bruised. I got to go to the doctor. I said, you're not going to the doctor. That was on Friday. By Monday, do you think he was okay or not? He was fine. I said, buck up, dude. You got an injury. Play through it. Sure enough, Monday, he plays in his basketball game on Monday. He's fine. If he would have had his way, he would have been in the hospital taking x-rays and all the, and there would have been parents that would have taken their kid to the hospital for the x-rays, and they would have said, you know what, you have a bruised rib. Yes, that's why it hurts when you breathe in. Even if they said you have a broken rib, there's nothing you can do about it, okay? Nothing. You can't put a cast on your rib cage. So no, I wasn't taking him to the doctors. Buck up, dude. I know when they're hurt and when they're not. I watch them when they're not looking. I watch how they walk, how they breathe. You know, I played a little college football. My minor in college was sports medicine. I know this stuff. And I've been doing this game long enough to know a little bit of psychology, too, which goes a long way. So anyway, these people, their parents need to say, buck up. Stop whining and complaining. You're a man, or you're a girl, or you're a boy. Don't try to change. Grow up. Look at this guy. I mean,
remember that the Nazis burned the books that the Nazis burned books on gender sciences first. Now the administration has villainized and marginalized migrant workers, trans, LGBT people, and even special needs, denying life-saving and affirming care.
Can you look at me and tell me how many of my friends need to die before you do anything?
Please wrap up.
Look at me!
See, this is where they're angry, folks. I mean, this is like, it's not a coincidence that we see all these transgender shooters, transgender attacks. They're violent. They're angry. They're not having anybody help them cope with their mental disease. They give them more drugs and hormones, which probably jack up them all even worse. I love some of the chat, by the way. Suck it up, Buttercup. I came from the playgrounds, Jacqueline writes, where they were paved. I remember those playgrounds. I played on them, too. This person did not, by the way.
Okay, we're all done here.
Fucking pathetic.
We're all done. Come on.
Of course, we need to continue celebrating Black History Month because in spite of what's coming down from Washington, we all know that we all exist and we all need to be recognized for our existence.
But be aware that you are a guest in my house when you come. And when you come, know that there are strong queer and trans people in my classroom who will collect you with the quickness.
My name in drag is Dee Dee Delight. And my name out of drag is Dewey Cosgrove Atienza.
Laddie LaRouge, he, they, in drag, District 3.
My legal name is Olivia D'Ambrosio. My public name is Livy Scanlon. My wife and I own a home in the Canal District.
I speak as someone who is always misgendered, like all the time. People refer to me as sir when I prefer to be referred to as ma'am. I speak as someone who is afraid to use public toilets.
I'd be afraid of you using a public toilet next to me, and I'm a man. These people are nuts, okay? And it's sad just how nuts they really are. But nutso garbanzo is an understatement to all of this. So on my morning radio program, we had a detransitioner come on. So Jen Horn is my co-host out there, and her and I did this interview with a woman by the name of Chloe Cole. She was on my Real America's Voice show, too. And it's pretty fascinating to listen to her talk about what she went through and who forced her into it. I'm going to play that interview for you. But before I do that, I want to tell you about Patriot Mobile. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. 972-PATRIOT is the number. I have a Patriot Mobile phone. I'm grateful for it. I have 2 lines on this phone on 2 different networks, so my service is always great no matter what city I'm in. 972-PATRIOT is the number to call them. Make the switch today. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They believe in the things that we believe in, okay? Here's the deal. We have 2 economies in this country. We have one that is being run by companies that think and act and want what's best for America. And then we have another that is run by the woke agenda, the liberals. Which side are you on? Where you spend your money says a lot about where you want this country to go. I would say get away from those big 3 cell phone companies. Put your money with Patriot Mobile. You're not going to sacrifice service. You're going to get better customer service. It's 100% U.S. based, and you're going to be part of a team. Stinchfield's Army, it is the official communications provider of Stinchfield's Army, Patriot Mobile. Make the switch today. Use the promo code GRANT, and you will get a free month service, okay? They'll make you a deal to switch, too, so don't worry about that. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. PatriotMobile.com/Grant, or just call them at 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT, and you tell them that Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right, I want to queue up this interview that Jen and I did with this woman by the name of Chloe Cole. So let's listen to it, and you'll see there are people coming out of this transgender alphabet mafia movement that have realized just how dangerous it is and are now sounding the alarm.
No one ever comes to call. But
How boring.
I know, it is pretty boring. I don't know. It's like they just they don't want to see us, I guess, or something like that. But
or something like that.
Something like that. Chloe Cole is joining us. She is a lovely 20-year-old woman who has been doing work for Young America's Foundation, I think in town to do some PragerU videos as well, which is incredible, and has quite the story to tell from a woman who decided to transition and then transition back. There are so many lessons to learn that you've been through in your 20 years. So, Chloe, welcome to The Morning Answer. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so tell us your story. What happened in your life? You've lived a lot. You've had a lot of experiences here.
Yeah, so I consider myself to be an advocate for the safety of children, especially in regards to our healthcare system, as well as the rights of our parents and family and families. And that comes from my own personal experiences with having in my family all those rights ignored, and also my own human rights ignored as a child, having been put through the process of a medical transition. I was still a girl when all of it happened. I was between the ages of 12 to 16 when I was identifying as a young man and going through medical treatments to try and make me into the opposite sex, which was unsuccessful.
Was that initiated by you, or were you encouraged by a parent or an adult, or was that something that you really felt?
So I believed through most of my adolescence that I actually was a young man, but that doesn't mean that these feelings were real or that I should have been affirmed in it. The feelings themselves are very real,
Sure.
But the place that they came from was trauma, really just normal pubertal distress, and also other comorbid psychiatric factors that just were not really ever explored during this time.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens? You got hormones. There's what you call chemical castration. There's surgical castration, removing breasts. Who makes the ultimate decision, and how far along that chain of things did you go?
Well, it's all based on the desires of the child, right? But it's not really, there's not really any regards as to what the child may actually need, which I think in every case is being told, no, you cannot actually be the opposite sex, and just being allowed to grow up with their body fully intact. So sure, maybe at the time I desired these treatments, but that didn't mean that it was good for me.
Right. There are a lot of things, especially
my kid
as you're
wants
young.
to eat dessert. My
Right.
kid wants to eat dessert at night. I don't let him eat dessert. And so, I mean, that's like the most basic example. So you ultimately, they say you make the decision, but everybody knows that a kid can't make these decisions for themselves, or shouldn't be allowed to. Who is the one pushing it on you, that's leading you down this path to make, because you had to have been manipulated into
Yes. So I learned about transgenderism through social media, and primarily through the Instagram app. That was pretty much the first social media, like real social media account that I made. And while I was on there, like I was in these communities that were full of young kids who were like me. They were creative. They were kind of outside the box thinkers. They were just different. And many of them had like a similar identity crisis to me growing up. They seemed to find the answer through chasing this fantasy of being the opposite sex and undertaking medical measures to try and do that. And I thought that with how these kids were just like me in a lot of ways, that I too was transgender, and I too wasn't actually a little girl. I was actually a young man, and that I had this condition and that I had to get treatment for it. And with my doctors,
so it seems
there really
medical to you.
Yeah. And with my doctors, there was no like real questioning of it or where these feelings came from. It was just accepted as a fact that I was a young man, and that my mom and dad were going to go with it, which a lot of people ask me, like, did your parents push you down this path? And the answer is no. They were very reasonable and sensible, and they never wanted me to undergo any medical treatment. They wanted to just allow me to express myself and be a tomboy and just grow up without any intervention. But they were told by doctors that it was going to be life or death.
Wow, that's incredible. So the doctors step in, you start taking these really strong, you take hormones, you take all these things, and you're a young person, you already have a lot of stuff going on. We can all know what that's like. We all know what that was like. what happens? How are you feeling? Do you ever feel a sense of calm at this point? Do you feel like, okay, I'm doing the right thing? Or was there always something in your mind that was like, well, maybe this isn't it?
Yeah, so there was that initial feeling of fulfillment because, like, I'm being told, like, it's going to make me happy, it's going to make me fulfilled and feel whole and healthy, that is going to bring me closer to my ideal of being a young man, right? So at first, like in the initial few years, like I was very confident. I started testosterone and puberty blockers at 13 years old. And so I started passing. There's this phrase in the transgender community, passing, which means that you look like a member of the opposite sex. And by the time that I entered my high school years, I was treated like I was a young boy. Mm-hmm. And most people who I went to school with didn't really know any different, actually. Mm-hmm. My surgery ended up being the turning point. I had a double mastectomy at 15, before I even had my driver's license. I had permanent surgery to get rid of my breasts. And because it was so harsh on my body, because the healing period was so difficult both physically and emotionally, it really woke me up to how much damage was actually being inflicted upon my body and upon me developmentally. And a year afterward, like I was 16, and I realized, like, wait, I have to start thinking about my adulthood. Like, what if I want to have kids one day? And I do want to become a mother one day. I want to have natural children. I wish that I'd be able to breastfeed them, but I don't have any breasts to do that with anymore. And that was heartbreaking for me. But there also was this comforting realization that there never was anything wrong with me in the first place, and that no matter what, I could never actually become a young man. But my femininity was calling to me, and it was always going to be there, no matter what I had lost.
So,
wow.
two questions for you, and I think one is the evilness of these doctors, and I don't want to gloss over the fact that they're telling your parents you're going to commit suicide if they don't do this. That's holding your parents hostage. They don't know. I mean, that right there is evil, and then I want to ask you about how you're doing now, but that's insanity to be forcing that on parents, your kids. And I think Elon Musk tells the same story about his son.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the lie that they feed to parents and shove down their throats in order to suck them into this and get them to say yes. And it's entirely ideological. There is no real backing to the statement. They'll cite like these high suicide rates that come from very faulty studies, and yeah, there is a higher incidence of suicidality in this population. But when you compare it to the levels of suicidality in people who have autism and other.
Breaking news. The national debt has just surpassed $36 trillion, and the S and C signs are the lost one, but the recovered literally to take and ask the good crucial and this legal utility anytime, leaving you.
That is that interview, and I guess when I recorded it, the rest of it got cut off there, which is definitely not good news, and I apologize about that. I'll try to play the rest of it for you at some point, but oh boy, that's unfortunate when technical errors happen like that, but they do happen, and they do happen at times, so I apologize about that. Here's what I can do for you, though. If you want to hear more about what it is like to detransition, and quite frankly, it is a fascinating deal. I had a guy by the name of Billy Burley on the program and on the Real America's Voice show. Billy Burley is also a detransitioner. He went to be a woman, and then he transitioned back to being a man and went through hell and back doing it. So to make up for not getting you the rest of Chloe Cole, let me play this for you. With us before, Bill, it is good to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you, Grant. Good seeing you again.
All right, Bill, what do you make of President Trump's executive order? And I want everyone out there to be clear. This is about children. It has nothing to do with over the age of 18. It's about kids and saying, you know what, the federal government is not going to provide any funds for this care.
This order is very much needed. The science actually, in my opinion, actually points to the harm that is being done to the kids. And from my own experience and talking to other transitioners and detransitioners, we had a lot of mental issues that were not addressed. We were affirmed, but the childhood traumas that we had were not addressed. And we were put through surgeries. A lot of harm was done to us.
You know, you were at a young age there, Bill. Do you wish, well, I know you do because you've detransitioned, but the fact that you wish you didn't go through this then really tells it all. What is your message to parents out there, lawmakers out there that are now screaming about this order as wrong?
Section 3 of this order actually says the junk science are the bad science, my interpretation. But I tell you what, if parents should really question the narrative and they should be seeking answers. And to do so, there is a lot of research that has been done around the world. And there's a place on the web that the parents should go to check out the science, the research. And that's the Society for Evidence-Based Gender Medicine. And that's segm.org. And there parents would find research papers written from people around the world on this topic, both doing direct research, but also looking at past research and pulling that research together to try to get a better picture if this is really helping children. And my background is engineering, but the reading I've done on and through these papers is that the affirming care, the medical transition, is not helping the mental health of the child. There's depression involved, and it's not good. It's best for a kid not to go through these surgeries.
You know, President Trump's executive order here does the opposite of what Joe Biden's did. Joe Biden put in an executive order to embrace this gender-affirming care, give best practices in how to lead children through this mutilation surgery. President Trump wants Health and Human Services now to scrap all that, come up with new guidelines about gender-affirming care, really throwing that out the window. And they're also scrapping what they call WPATH guidelines. And I believe this is an organization that's looked at as supplying guidelines for how to address this. They want to scrap these guidelines, Bill.
And that's a good thing from my perspective. Now, I was going through this back in the 1990s and really questioning things. And at that time, the DSM-3 was active. And there again, my background is engineering. But from my interpretation, the DSM-3 actually called this a mental health issue. To my understanding, and I could be wrong, but politics got in the cycle, and instead of it being a mental health issue, it became a problem that had to be addressed within the DSM-5. And I believe that's totally wrong. This needs to be revisited, and this executive order actually states that it does need to be revisited.
Do you believe, like I do, that President Trump really is protecting children here, and this is what's best for the kids? It has nothing to do with discrimination against the trans people out there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I tell you what, in my activism, I love these kids. I don't want anybody to go through what I went through. I've had a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and the surgeries don't work, and that's a topic for another time. But I don't believe President Trump is trying to cause anybody harm, but is actually trying to help and love by actually establishing this order. I believe this is going to help because these kids should not be affirmed, but the childhood traumas need to be addressed.
Bill, why don't you give out that website one more time that people should go to, because the mainstream media is not giving this website out. What is it again?
It's the Society for Evidence-Based Gender Medicine, and that website is segm.org. Go there, go to the studies tab, look at the papers, do your own research. Don't believe the narrative.
Yeah. No one knows that better than you, Bill Burley. I'll tell you, I'm always impressed by your strength. We're grateful for your voice and speaking out on all of this. Thank you. Good luck to you, and we'll see you again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
You know how hard it must be for these people to go public and talk about the horrible decisions that they took part in making. Many of them, I think, like the first woman, Chloe, who was forced into that. The doctors should be ashamed of themselves. I don't trust any of these doctors. COVID certainly opened up my minds to doctors. But even before that, I remember when my grandfather was getting sick, he never wanted to ask questions of doctors. He just took what, and I always, why aren't you asking questions, Grandpa? Why aren't you? I don't know if this is the right thing. No one knows my body like I know my body, and that is including a doctor. These doctors that are forcing this transgender nonsense onto kids, they should be really put in jail for what they're doing. It's a horrible subject, and President Trump's trying to do something about it, and God bless him. God bless him for that. Folks, let me give you a final reminder about my friends over at the Wellness Company. This is the kit you can get from the Wellness Company. Prescription medications, 8 of them. I have used this to kill and knock off my strep throat. There's ivermectin in here. I've hit the ivermectin when I thought I was coming down with COVID, and that worked right away. There's all kinds of stuff in here. Antibiotics, antiparasitics, antivirals that you need to keep yourself safe. This is the kit. There's a guidebook in here. You're not prepared unless you have prescription medications on hand for you and your family. You can have all the ammunition you want, all the food, all the water, power generation. All those things are important. But if you need prescription medications and you can't get to a drugstore is closed, or we have shortages, or, who knows what, you're going to be in a really bad spot. This kit could save a life. Have it in your household. It is literally that. I think it's like a fire extinguisher. Every household has to have one of those. Every household ought to have one of these. twc.health/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. All right, Real America's Voice show tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Sorry about the little technical error there before, folks. Again, 7 p.m. Eastern, Real America's Voice. Tune in to that. Stinchfield's Army Rolls, of course, thanks to all of you. Stinchfield 1776 on all the major platforms. Sign up for the email list at grantstinchfield.com. You can check out all the podcasts there as well. Stinchfield's Army Rolls because of all of you. God bless you, folks. We'll see you tonight on the Rav Show, 7 p.m. Eastern time.